Hey everyone, we just wrapped up episode 28 for Blueprint for Closers. Our guest today was John Mark Shaw, executive business coach, life coach. If you're looking to 10x your business, if you're looking to change your mindset, change how your mind is programmed on how to elevate your game, both professionally and personally, please check out this episode.
Welcome everybody to episode 28 of Blueprint for Closers. I am Rob Nixon. I am joined by my co-host Dominic Ciccarelli. And today we are very privileged to have John Mark Shaw. He's an executive coach and business development consultant with over 25 years of successful entrepreneurial executive leadership and management experience. So very excited to have you on. I think there's going to be some great content today. So thank you for being here.
I feel honored and privileged, and thank you so much for having me. This is super fun.
Rob, good to see you, pal. How's everything going, man? I'm also very excited to be speaking with John today. John and I belong to a business group together that meets weekly, and him and I had some opportunities to get a little bit closer personally over the last few months, and I thought he'd be a great fit for not only this podcast, but for our viewers. He's had a very interesting career, very diversified, and he's had some really nice wins, and I'm looking forward for the rest of our viewers to hear about it.
Great. So, John, if we can kind of jump right in, right? So, coaching, right? I know that sometimes this can be a foreign concept to entrepreneurs, especially ones that have enjoyed great success throughout their careers. And they say, well, why do I need a coach, right? I'm a huge advocate for coaching. I think there's so much value. So, if you could, give us some background on that.
Yes, and thank you. And it's great to meet you, Rob. And I'm a huge fan of Dominic. He is such an example of all the things that I study and teach. Super successful, multifaceted entrepreneur, growth mindset. So I'm thrilled to be here with you guys. I believe that success leaves clues and that there are patterns of success, right? And that it's not a mystery. And that if you study the way success happens in your own career or in the careers of other people, great beings who have accomplished great things, then you can distill principles. This is something that Napoleon Hill did 100 years ago when he studied 500 of the most successful people. And I've studied him, and I've been studying this for over 30 years. And there are some principles of success similar to when Dominic is, as an architect, is building a building that it's structurally sound. There are principles of architecture, of engineering, right? And if you apply those principles, you'll build a structurally sound building. And if you don't, then there's concern that it won't succeed, right? And so similarly, success leaves clues, and there are systems of success. And so here, I'll answer the question of why people need coaching from one foundational principle of success, which is this. Every human being, myself included, all of us, has an operating system. The reason why our computers have operating systems is because it's a similar pattern to the way our human brain works. And our operating systems are this. Just like the Windows or the iOS in your phone, it's your program beliefs, which lead to thoughts, which lead to feelings, which lead to actions or inaction, which lead to results. So beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. And that's what I call an operating system or a paradigm. And the way it works with most humans is that they tend to create the same results over and over again, like a thermostatic setting. The way your thermostat works in your home, and Dominic knows this even better than me, is if it's set to 72 degrees, you open the window, warm air rushes in, the temperature rises. What happens? The thermostat kicks in to cool off the house to bring it back down. Most people that I have observed, and this is a scientific proven fact in neuroscience, don't live 90 years. They live 1 year 90 times, and they repeat the same patterns. You both are highly successful. You have excellent patterns of success, but also, like me and all of us, there's some self-limiting patterns. The reality is that it is very difficult to see your own self-limiting patterns, just in the way that it's hard to see the picture when you're the one in the frame. And so the reason that every great athlete who has ever lived, and now pretty much every great executive, the founders of Google and Facebook had coaches, right? Mark Benioff has a coach. and uses some of these principles I'm talking about. Ray Dalio has a coach, right? These massive successful people, because they know that they have blind spots. And what they want to do, the way success happens is that you need to reprogram the operating system to raise the thermostat. If you're making $1 million a year and you have a $20 million business and you're bringing home $1 million, if you want to get to 40 million and bring home $2 million, right, you need to rewire the operating system to raise the thermostatic setting on your success. That requires, in my opinion, a structure of support and accountability. And so that's sort of an example of a pattern of success and why people need coaches.
I'm a huge believer in coaching. I've only got into coaching about 4 years ago. COVID hit, my world kind of drastically changed overnight, like many others. And I had some friends using coaches that says, you know what, let me try this and see if this is really as effective as people say it is. And I really regret not being exposed to this world earlier. I didn't go to school for business, right? I went to school for architecture. So although I might be a great architect, if I don't know how to run a business, I'm not going to be able to scale my business or run a good business. There are tons of talented people I know in my business that are broke because they don't know how to run their daily life and be disciplined and be motivated and maybe be a little bit more structured in their life, no pun intended. Um, so I think that coaching, I think if you don't have a coach, you're right. You're a limited version of yourself, and
Yes,
there's very limited growth you can do on your own unless you surround yourself by really, really smart people. But if you're
yes,
doing that, you're gonna, the moment I surrounded myself by really smart people is when I discovered coaching. Um,
exactly.
so, so I'm curious to see how you got into coaching and how long have you been using coaches? Like, were you using a
Okay.
coach during the growth of your career? And so let's talk a little bit more about
I've
that.
been using coaching for 30 years. Here's the foundational principle. I believe that every human being has unlimited potential, and that even super high performers like you two are only scratching the surface of your potential. And that my job essentially is to help people unlock and unleash their higher potential. And there are different ways of doing that. I just want to briefly speak to what you said. I have many attorney clients, real estate developer and agent clients, doctors, accountants, tech founders. And a lot of these people are brilliant subject matter experts, but they never learned about how to be entrepreneurs and business leaders, right? And so a lot of the work that I do with people is help people build the tools of entrepreneurism, of building and scaling businesses so that they can round out their mindset and skill set and understanding to be entrepreneurs in addition to their brilliant subject matter expertise, in your case being an architect. And so, yes, I've been on a passionate journey of personal development and professional development for many years. I'll say one of the linchpin moments was I actually got sober. I stopped drinking 26 years ago, and that was a big awakening moment for me. And I became very passionate about understanding human potential and unlocking and unleashing my own potential. And so for 26 years, I've had coaches and teachers and mentors, right? And so
Love it.
I discovered over that time by investing very heavily in coaches and mentors this proven results driven strategic system that I work with. And ultimately, I built a career in the restaurant business where I co founded and built a $30 million restaurant business and led a team of 400 people. And I applied the principles that I learned. But along the way, what I loved most was coaching my team members. And then other entrepreneurs started to come to me for advice on how to grow their businesses. And I really felt called to help people unleash their potential, because what I love about helping entrepreneurs and leaders is they don't only make a difference in their own lives, but they have a massive ripple effect because they make the lives of their employees, of their customers and clients and their communities better. And so that's really what I'm passionate about, is helping create a ripple effect of human potential and creating a greater good in the world. So that's what I'm passionate about.
I want to touch on the sobriety just for 1 second. I personally made a decision to, I wouldn't say stop drinking alcohol, but I mean, stop it as of January of 2023. Again, I'll have a drink on a special occasion, a birthday, New Year's, if I'm really in a good mood. But I gotta say, drinking alcohol, consuming alcohol in America has become so mainstream where at every almost breakfast, lunch, and dinner, people are drinking now. It's become part of American society where it's not something you do for a special occasion anymore. I have, listen, with an Italian background, every single night people drink wine for dinner, right? But, studies show alcohol, is worse than many illegal drugs out there on the market. And what I will say is my own personal experience, the moment I stopped drinking, I had so much more clarity. I had so much more energy. Even if it was just 2 or 3 drinks the night before, I'm getting a little older. I was a little bit less,
Yeah.
energetic in the morning. I wasn't bouncing out of bed as quick, a little bit groggy, not as sharp. And I did it as a 30-day challenge with my business coach, and I couldn't believe how great I felt. I'm very social. I'd spend one night out with my family or my friends or a client. And if you have 3 or 4 drinks a night and you're out 4 or 5 nights a week, listen, it adds up to 20, 25, 30 drinks a week, which, listen, when you're trying to keep the pounds off, it's a lot of
Yes.
calories. So besides the health benefit, the
There's a
direct health benefit.
huge psychological, energetic benefit. And by the
Yeah,
way, I just want to say, there is nothing wrong with alcohol. I'm not against it. I have alcohol at all my parties that I have at my home.
yeah.
I was in the restaurant business and I sold alcohol for a living for many years. I just think, I think it's all about understanding yourself and your own potential. And many of my clients have done similar to you who didn't. I had a real problem. It was one of my patterns of lack of success. I had inherited that pattern from generations before me, right? And I needed to reprogram that pattern. But for many people, it really is they've just come to see that 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 if they want to be high performers, and all the people I work with really want to be high performers, optimizing their energy, their mental focus, their mental acuity, their mindset, their positivity is primary. Tony Robbins says that success is 80% mindset and 20% strategy. And if you're hungover or just low grade, not feeling well, not that you even have an alcohol problem per se, then you're not being your best and leaping out of bed and going after it. And so I think that's exactly where you're coming from. Again, everybody is there. I believe that every individual is their own highest authority, and that we have to follow our intuition, our connection to what I believe is infinite intelligence, and make our own choices. And I don't tell people what to do. I actually evoke within them their own inner wisdom. But I think if you're using alcohol to not feel your feelings, to numb because you don't want to feel your stress, that's when you start to get into something that's probably not optimizing your performance.
I'm curious to hear. I'm curious to hear some typical traits or behaviors or routines your clients have. The people that are really successful. I can speak for myself. I start my days earlier. I do way more reading than I used to do. I do a lot more writing and journaling than I used to do. Manifestation is a really big thing. I mean, it's something I wasn't even aware of or believed in. But wishing things into existence and talking about your goals. Tell me some things that, some habits that maybe some of your clients have, or some traits that you see repeating themselves for people that are very successful.
I love that. And so, first of all, there's kind of a principle. I believe that success is like a physics or a science, as I said, and that there is a physics of success or transformation. And one of the primary examples of that principle is that energy requires structure to move efficiently and effectively, right? And so just like if you don't have a pipe around water, then it's a mess. But if you enclose it in a pipe, then it will flow and it can create energy on the grid. Or the difference between incandescent light, which is dissipated and gentle, and if you focus that energy of light, it can be a laser beam and cut through steel. The idea here is that we want to focus and harness our human energy into structures. So what you said is absolutely waking up with a morning practice. So I believe, starting the day before you get on your phone and you're thinking about all the constantly negative news, you want to take control of your mind, right? Ralph Waldo Emerson said, stand guard at the portal of your mind, right? And so that starts with meditation. Ray Dalio, LeBron James, Derek Jeter, Mark Benioff from Salesforce, Seinfeld, famous meditators, right? So starting just with a few minutes of, it doesn't have to be fancy, it's just breathing and listening to the sound of your breath and centering yourself. Then I have people move to being grateful. What are they grateful for? You can journal that or think about it. What are you proud of yourself for? This is all elevating your energy, right? And then ultimately, yes, visualization. The greatest, Novak Djokovic, the greatest tennis player in the world, says it very well. He said from the time he was 7, he would visualize holding that Wimbledon trophy and being #1 in the world. That he would not only see it in his mind, but really feel it in his body. And he said he believes that that was the secret of his success. Of course, he's a great physical athlete, but it's the mental game. He said you can see it, feel it, believe it, and achieve it. And he has visualized every single day to become the greatest tennis player in the world, right? There are so many, many examples of that. You've heard it all over the Olympics, right? With Simone Biles and Noah Lyles talking about visualizing, right? Their routines or visualizing coming in first place. And
Jim
so
Carrey.
Jim Carrey,
Jim Carrey. I think he wrote himself a
exactly.
check for like 5 grand, 5 million or 50 million
For,
bucks.
for $10 million. This is a
Yeah,
very famous example. He
yeah,
was a broke out of work actor, right? Sleeping on his friend's couch, but he studied these principles and he wrote down his vision and and here's a key principle also: big, hairy, bold, audacious goals, belief in possibility, right? The willingness to dream big, not just to have moderate goals, but goals that turn you on, that light you up, 10x goals,
yeah.
right? He believed that his goal was to be paid $10 million to star in a film. And what was audacious about it was that he would have been the first person ever to be paid $10 million. And he took his vision and he visualized it and he drove up in his beat up car up to Mulholland Drive and he would visualize receiving that check and he wrote himself a check for $10 million. And
Amazing.
within 5 years, but here's the thing, just like with you and all high performers, he was diligent. He wasn't casual. He didn't do it once in a while. He did it every day. It's the everyday structure. It requires discipline, but he became the first person ever to be paid $10 million through the structure and discipline of using his mind to manifest,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And
unbelievable.
what
Very
I love
powerful.
Hey,
about this time, sorry, what I love about this time in history is when I started studying this 30 years ago, it was considered a little weird and wacky. Now, if you watch the Olympics, there's almost no gold medalist who didn't say something about this technology. So it's becoming much more, out in the popular culture. That
Mainstream.
these are tools you can use to optimize your performance.
I
And of
never
course,
realized what a
you know,
difference that could really make. Like, in recent coaching I did, I had put together affirmations, right? And I was getting in the habit of going through them every day.
awesome.
And then the gratitude that you mentioned before, both of you, I was doing an exercise. You just reminded me, I kind of fell off from it, which again, another reason for coaching, right? Another thing to keep you accountable, to remind you about things. But at the end of the day, I would come up with, have to come up with 10 things I was grateful for that day, right? Or that went good about that day. And
Yes.
you quickly start to realize that life is pretty good, right? You're like, it's really, you quickly forget about the things that, maybe are dragging you down or putting you in a bad mood. It's just constantly keeping yourself in the right mindset.
Rob, I love that. And if you don't mind, I want to add to that. So I do that with my
Sure.
daughter, who's 9, right? If you set the intention to have things at the end of the day that you're going to be proud of, that also changes your day because now you have something called the reticular activating system, which is the part of your brain that looks for clues of your intention. So if you've ever been hungry and gone to a mall, all you see is the restaurants, right? You can't even see the phone stores and all that other stuff. If you ever bought a new car, this happened to me, and you didn't think anyone had it, and now you saw 27 of the same car, it's because now your awareness is focused on seeing what you're looking for. If you set your awareness at the beginning of every day to know that at the end of the day, I'm going to be focusing on 10 things I'm proud of or 3 things I'm proud of, now you're going to find things to do to be proud of. And now your performance is going to be enhanced by that. So it's not only that you're looking at it in the end and looking for the things, it's the intention changes your behavior, right? The intention to
So,
do things you're proud of optimizes your performance and creates better performance.
so the actual act is basically getting up and saying, I'm going to have 3 things I'm proud of by the end of the day? Like, how do you do it for your daughter? I love
Yeah.
that. That's interesting.
So the morning practice, again, we talk about structure. We bookend the day. So in the morning, you do the practice I mentioned, but at the end of the day, one of the things you're going to be doing is elucid or is thinking about and then for me, I ask my daughter, so she's now thinking about it all day. What am I going to tell Daddy I'm proud of? Now she's looking for things to be proud of. So she's looking, who can I help? How can I try even harder? Right? And so by knowing that you're going to be doing that, that's part of what we talked about, structuring your energy, right? Most people live life by default, according to the patterns, and they stay stuck in their comfort zone. This is all talking about how to live your life and build your business by design, right? By taking your power away from circumstances, situations, and conditions, right? And finding a way to structure your mind and your thoughts. All that we have are our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And if we bring more consciousness and intention to our thoughts, feelings, and actions, we change our results and we raise the thermostatic setting.
I love that. Another thing that you can do, and I know sitting down and having family dinner is not something that when I grew up, it was every single night. Now,
But that's another structure,
yeah,
right? Just like having one-on-ones with your team members, just like having weekly team meetings with your leadership team or departmental meetings. In an organization, it's vital. You can't just have casual conversations.
right.
It's about creating structure on your teams, and structure in your family. We're going to sit down and connect. Having a date night with your partner, right? It doesn't happen if you do it by default. I don't know about you, but with a daughter, it's easy for us not to connect for a few weeks.
Yeah.
We have to impose structure on the relationship so that we have time to connect, like family dinner. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's important to create those structures.
Yeah, but similar to asking those, having those affirmations or talking to your daughter about the win she had for that day, something that I've heard of and I try to do randomly is when you're at that family dinner, you say, hey, what was the best part of your day today? Or,
Yes.
hey, what was the worst part of your day today? What were you struggling with? And you just start those conversations as opposed to everyone doing it on their phones or
Yes.
maybe struggling to come up with conversations. And I think an easy thing to say is, hey, tell me something that was great that happened today, or tell me something that was really bad that happened today. And you could share yourself, and it's a way to start a dialogue. I think that's something that's falling off is just having just a meaningful dialogue. Not, hey, you have football practice tomorrow, and hey, did you do your homework? Tell us about your day. What are your feelings? What are your goals? What do you want to do? So that's really good stuff.
I think one of the important principles of success that's getting lost, and it's the reason why mindfulness and meditation is so important, is that essentially it's really to be present in the moments of your life. I love the phrase to be where your feet are. When you're on your phone, I can tell you my wife and daughter get so upset at me because I'm not perfect at this, because you're not with them. You may be physically with them, but you're not really with them. And the idea is when your feet are in one place, but your mind is in another place, you're not going to be as powerful and effective. The most successful people on the planet, I don't know if you've been with people who, when they sit in front of you, you feel like whoosh, like they are so focused on you. It's like you feel an energetic charge coming from them. That's the power of presence. They're not thinking about what's happening next. They're fully with you and you feel it. In your marriage, with your kids, in business, with prospects, with clients or customers.
Yeah.
When you give them your full presence to the moment you're in. And so this idea of, can you be more present in each moment you're in, right?
Yeah.
And drop the distractions and put down the phone. That's a massive success. That alone changes people's lives. You
Yeah.
do a little bit of morning
Oh,
practice
God, yeah.
time, right? And then you be where your feet are throughout the day. You use the breath to breathe yourself into the present moment if you're feeling stressed and anxious. And you just try to stay in the meeting you're in the interaction you're in. That alone, your energy moves in a much more powerful way.
Rob and I belong to a small group of 10 men that meet once a month for breakfast. And we call
Right.
ourselves a little mastermind group, but sometimes we digress. But one of the rules is the phones aren't out.
Yeah.
Unless it's a dire emergency, phones are not out. You're dedicating the 2 or 3 hours with us. We have a topic, we have an agenda, and we push through it. And it's powerful.
It's a structure. So it's a structure. right? It's a structure of connecting with other men in a mastermind. You and I are in a structure of networking every week, right? The most successful people structure their time with their family, their time with all in all aspects of their life, right? Structuring your day, having a calendar, right? That not just only having meetings in your calendar when you're with other people, but having calendarizing your deep thinking time, your creative time. When are you going to actually solve the difficult problems that, as an architect, for example, right? You need some time to quietly think. So put that in your calendar and turn off the alerts so
Yeah.
that you're fully with solving that problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Structuring the time is hugely impactful, right? For
I'm a big believer in time blocking. Every part of my
yeah,
day is pretty much time blocked. I might not know what I'm doing specifically, but I know I'm doing this. Like, all right, Wednesdays I'm dedicating to my real estate. Mondays I'm meeting my team. And then I'll whittle it down. But time blocking is huge. Another big thing is controlling your own day. Right? It's very
yeah,
easy. It's very easy for your clients to take over your day.
yeah,
If you wake up and you have these 10 goals you want to complete, and then all of a sudden you're answering every email and phone call comes in, before you know it, at the end of the day, you've achieved none of your things. So I tell my
exactly.
team, just because the client calls does not need, of course, if it's an emergency, it's different, to pick it up, because you're teaching behavior. If you pick up the phone
Yeah,
every time the client calls, he's going to keep calling, right? Even if it's not so important. So
exactly.
if you say, "Hey, I'm only checking my email today between 9 and 10, or 4 and 5, or hey, I'm dedicated to this task between 1 and 2. No one's going to distract me from doing this task." Controlling your own day in a respectful, professional way is a game changer for efficiency and completing your goals for sure. I have a project manager of mine who his job is to really field a lot of these calls and problems throughout the day, but he also has regular work to do. And I'm like, "Hey, pal, listen, I know you have two really important jobs, but structure it. Tell your client between these hours I'm not available, and really get in and hone in and finish it." So time blocking is big.
And that requires also another big success principle that, occurs with a lot of people is Abraham Maslow talked about the idea of becoming independent of the good opinion of others and having the confidence to be empowered to make choices, to say no, the enlightened no, right? Most people are too insecure to say, "Hey, I can't really talk to you about this now, but I do have some time then." They're operating out of fear and insecurity. And so okay, I got to drop everything to handle this now because I'm afraid that I'm actually going to lose the client if I don't jump on it. And actually, that energy is coming from lack, fear, and limitation. And, one of the foundational, universal laws um, that Einstein talked about is the law of vibration, which is that we live in a quantum field of vibration, right? Everything is vibrating. And if you have a goal for your success, your job is to match the frequency of the reality you want. He said, if you match that frequency of vibration, that it must be yours. He said, it's not philosophy, it's physics. So we come up with a bold vision, and then our job, the physics of transformation is to elevate our vibration. And if you're coming from worried out in fear, "Oh no, I'm going to lose the client," that's low vibration. If you're able to build the confidence to say, "It's okay for me to say no right now," that confidence is actually more in alignment with the vision that you want to achieve. And so really the work is about releasing, when we talked about reprogramming the operating system, the limiting beliefs, the fears, the lower vibration beliefs about yourself, so that you can elevate your vibration to become a match to that next level business and success you want to create. And part of that is having the confidence to say no and structure your time.
Yeah.
Would you be able to, because I think unfortunately this is very important to people at times, right? Would you be able to give some examples of maybe some success you've that some clients have had?
Absolutely. So, I have one client in particular, and it's kind of an unusual example, but he he had an executive membership community for people in the tech industry, and it's called Pavilion. His name is Sam Jacobs, and when I started working with him, it was pre-pandemic, and he had about 300 members, and he wanted to build an essentially $100 million company. And so that was his intention, and his sales were way less than $1 million. but we started to work together. We designed a vision and we started to take some massive steps to build that business, right? And we got him visualizing and he was using all the mental game. And there was a lot of outbound sales. There was a lot of developing his product and service as an executive membership community. And then the pandemic hit, and his whole framework was operating with in-person support. He created kind of like what you guys are doing in your mastermind in different cities around the country and in London for executives, founders, CMOs, CROs, executives in software, in the software business, right? And so all of a sudden, all that had to shut down. And there's a principle of success that says that every adversity has within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit if you can find it, plant it, nurture it, and harvest it. That's a quote from Napoleon Hill. And I had studied that. And so even though he was terrified, he had a family to support, and he thought, like all of us, oh my God, the sky is falling. We knew that there must be an opportunity here in the midst of this adversity. And when Napoleon Hill was working, he found that more people became millionaires during the Great Depression than at any other time in history because of this principle. Big adversity actually corresponds to big opportunity. So what is the big opportunity here? And so we designed a vision of using, virtual services, scaling the business, right? We did all kinds of things to go out and raise money, to build a team. He invested, this is an important principle, even though he was potentially going to lose money, he took some risks. He took about a business loan to invest in growth, to build a team, to enhance the services. Rather than taking away services and contracting, he knew that people needed help now more than ever. So focusing on the higher purpose, on the customer, on giving more, which activates greater receiving. And there was one particular story that was interesting. Right, we started to make more money. We started to grow. Ultimately, now he's got 12,000 members. And the punchline that happened was we raised a $25 million venture capital investment based on a $100 million valuation, right? And he's been able to completely scale, and he's a $100 million business. And that happened not in spite of. Here's what's important. Michael Jordan said, "I failed over and over and over again, and that is why I succeed." He didn't succeed in spite of the pandemic. What he did was he utilized the challenge of the pandemic and found the opportunity in the adversity and then stepped on the gas. And he invested even though it was scary, right? And so what I want to say to all the people listening is, what adversity are you facing that you are feeling daunted by? Because the reality is, there must by law be an opportunity in that adversity. Are you willing to find that opportunity and lean in? In a difficult economy, everybody's afraid of the economy right now. It's those who lean in and take risks, not uncalculated, crazy risks, but lean in and take smartly, well thought out risks, but continue to lean in and grow while others are pulling back in uncertainty. Those are the people who win, because they know that they have a potential to overcome the adversity and that every adversity has an opportunity. So one example, right? I have a real estate agent
That's amazing.
that we're in a group with. We quadrupled the size of his business, right? We used a framework that I love from a great book you could pick up called 10X is Easier Than 2X, which is he was a high performer real estate agent, right? He was already top in New York City, but he had a small team. It was the Scott Show. He was an individual. We built out a team. We had him focus on his unique abilities and delegate the 80% of things to build a high-functioning team. He doubled his business. Then the third step was we found a leader, a chief operating officer, so that he could be freed up to really even focus even more on his unique abilities, which is being a rainmaker, being creative, being a thought leader like Dominic is, right? Like you guys are, right? And he tripled, and then he continued to work that system so that not only was he focusing on his unique abilities, but that every person on his team was focusing on their unique abilities and hiring people under them to delegate to and creating this high-performing team. And now he quadrupled his business, right?
And
also,
he's writing a book.
And he's writing a book with the time that he saved because he delegated, right, all of the things that were not his highest and best use. So that's another principle.
You see some of these people, right, and you're like, how how do people manage to do that, right? Where they've three different businesses, they're writing books, they have a great family life, and it goes to show everyone's got the same 24 hours in a day, and it's just, I mean, like you said, I think earlier, just everyone's got endless potential, and it's just a matter of really capitalizing on that. So I love that. Those are great examples, by the way. So thank you.
My pleasure.
And we always like to share a funny, special, sad, insightful story of a personal story or a business experience.
So part of the story with Sam that I wanted to share, which is not logical, but it works with the physics of transformation, was that along the way as he was growing, he had a self-image that he lives in Manhattan. If you guys live in Manhattan, right, you don't want to be there during the summer, right? So he was always struggling financially his entire life. And so he would rent these houses like not on the right side of the tracks out on Long Island by the Hamptons, right? And he had this self-image, which is a part of our operating system I mentioned at the beginning, that I'm the guy who can't afford the nice house, right? Which is a lower vibration thought. We all have these limiting beliefs about ourselves, right? And so he would invest in these with what he thought he could afford. And so he had this opportunity. We're making money. We've grown from maybe 400 members to maybe 2,000 members. He's starting to make some real money, and he's got, a few $100,000 in his business bank account. He comes across this beautiful house in the Hamptons, right, that he falls in love with, and it's $70,000 to rent that house for 2 months, right, which for him was an astronomical amount of money. And so we talked about it, and I said, rather than thinking about it as a cost, think about it as an investment and hold. Ralph Waldo Emerson had a principle. He said that you can make an investment and hold that investment in what he called the bank of the universe, and believe and hold that it will not only come back to you, but it will come back to you multiplied. And I said, if you invest in this house, which I'm not, not in the sense of like throwing away money, with an intention that by means of investing in this rental, I am going to elevate my self-awareness, I'm going to raise my thermostatic setting, and I'm going to have some ideas and do work that easily 10x, right, that investment. And we did it, and he was shaking, and then he made the investment. I think Dominic may have seen his testimonial about this at an event or whatever. He tells a very funny story, and he calls me panicking and freaking out. I'm like, trust, we're holding the investment. Within 3 months of that, making that investment, he added $700,000 to his bank account, exactly 10x. But not only that, but he laid a foundation by reprogramming his operating system, by who he believed himself to be. If you remember, he changed his beliefs, which changed his thoughts, feelings, and actions, and he launched into a new trajectory. And within another 6 months from that, he received the $25 million venture capital investment based on the $100 million. And so all of that was tied to a decision to rent a house in the Hamptons, but it wasn't about the house. It's not like gambling it away in Vegas. It was an investment in transforming his operating system and his self-image. Yeah. So I think that's remarkable, because there's, for every single one of you who's listening, there is a power move. There's something you're afraid of doing. There's something you know right now that if you did it, it would launch and skyrocket your business, but you're not doing it. You're afraid of it. It's an investment. It's a risk of some kind. My encouragement is you, and that's why people have coaches to help them summon the courage to take those steps. But I just encourage you not to take an irresponsible step, but a thoughtful, bold step to take the risks required, because that's how you generate. Had he never, I believe that he would never have gotten the $25 million venture capital investment if he didn't invest in his summer house, right? Because he was on a new trajectory, a new vibration, and a new belief in himself. So hopefully that's helpful.
Great story. But I do want to tell you a story, a little unrelated but related. So around the corner from where I live is a very prestigious high school called Collegiate. on the Upper West Side. Very, very expensive school. I mean, I'm going to say it's over $50,000 a year to
I
go
had
to.
friends who went there. Yeah.
Okay. So my circle that I grew up with would say that it's completely insane to do that. People are doing it to show off how much money they have. It makes no sense. It's completely insane, right? But as I'm trying to grow and evolve as a human, which could be very difficult at times, and now speaking to people that go to that school, they say, Dominic, it's not a matter of the money. They says, what about now the social circle, the powerful social circle your children are in? What about
Yes.
now the social circle you're in? When you're going to those sporting events, you're going to those school events, the people you're meeting.
Exactly.
Dominic, if you get 1 or 2 jobs a year just from that circle of parents or
Yes.
teachers or the staff, it's going to pay for more than the tuition. But you have to change the mindset. It's $50,000, $60,000 a year to go to school or whatever it might be.
It's not a cost, it's an investment
That's
in
right.
elevating
That's right.
elevating your kids aware. Also, it's also his, is it boy? Did you say your son or daughter?
Yeah.
Your
I have a
son.
son that
So it's
just started high
elevating
school.
his awareness. It's elevating his awareness. There's
Right.
a law of 5, right? Which is you tend to create results that match the 5 people you hang out with the most. And you want to put your kids in an elevated environment where they're hanging out with. It's actually the thinking that people magnetize, right? It's the thinking, and so they're thinking from, these are very successful people who can send their kids there. I went to a school like that, and then I went to Stanford, and it was an elevation. It changed me. When I
Yeah.
went to Stanford, I was like, holy shit, these people are super smart. I better work my ass off.
Right.
And it elevated. And I started to, now my whole life I've been connecting with people who are at this different level, and it keeps me at the top of my game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's exactly what you're saying. People think of things as an expense, but you have to hold it as an investment that will generate a return for your son, for you, for your business, for the social. So great example.
Yeah.
Big difference between cost and value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. This was really, really great. I think we used every single minute for some really valuable content. I really appreciate your time, John. I know you're a busy guy. I think business coaching is a powerful thing. And listen, we could talk probably for another 2 hours about this, but maybe in the future we'll get you back on and we'll fine in on how this works and how people can get into it.
I would love it. And I just want to say, just from knowing
Thank
you
you, guys.
very well, Dominic, you are a practitioner of these principles. And you're the reason why you're highly successful is because you really have the willingness to learn, to understand, to apply these principles, and I see it in action. And
Sure.
Rob, I can see the same thing in you, and it's an honor to hang out with you guys and get a chance to share some ideas. Thank you.
Thank you so much.